one my grandfather saw in 1925. Turn the world around 1/3 of the way again, another Saros cycle. March 9th, 1997, another 18 years. And now we have an eclipse that starts over here in Central Asia, goes across beautiful Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Great place to take the wife and kids. Mongolia, 1997, March the 9th. I had friends who were in a snowstorm, actually. The snow fortuitously came to an end just as the eclipse was reaching its total phase. But it was cold out there too, kind of like reminiscence of the 1925 eclipse. And now most recently, add another 18 years, 10 1/3 days, and we now come to this eclipse. 2015, March 20th, first day of spring, just about a month ago. And this particular eclipse started in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, worked its way almost straight in between UK and Iceland. Right over here, you can't see it on this map, a bunch of little islands called the Faroe Islands. People went to the Faroe Islands to see that event. And then further north, up here, this massive land, Svalbard, also known as Spitsbergen. Would you believe that 50,000 people came? More people, you can put all those people in Dodger Stadium to see the total eclipse of the sun on March the 20th. Now, the weather prospects were not very good. Much better if you go up in a plane, an aircraft. And I happened to be fortunate enough to be on board one of about 24 aircraft that were all flying. It was kind of like Brownian motion. Everybody was going every which way, trying to position themselves in the path of totality for this eclipse. But I happened to be on a plane. It was a plane that was chartered by a company known as Air Events. In Germany, they're known as Deutsche Polaflug. And another company called Eclipse Dresden. And I approached them. I had done a story about an eclipse which I observed from an aircraft 8 years earlier, chartered by the same company. I said, I'd like to come on board and cover this eclipse. Would you allow me to come on board? And they said, sure. It was wonderful. So I got a chance to go on board a jet to see a total eclipse of the sun. Now, the people who had window seats paid an awful lot of money to be on board that flight. The window seat on board that flight was something like $8,600. Just to get a window seat to see the total eclipse. So when I asked, where's my window seat? The people over at Eclipse Reason said, oh, we have a window for you. I said, oh, really? Where's my window? He said, well, do you ever see the big emergency hatch? The emergency hatch on board the aircraft? I said, yeah. He said, have you ever noticed there's a little window on that particular hatch? A bullseye window? I said, oh. I said, so I'm going to be looking. He said, yes, you can look through that window. Here's the size of my window. That was my window on March 20th. And he asked, there were 2 flights out of Dusseldorf, Germany. One flight, I know one of the people here, Craig Small, he was on that flight. That was where the Americans were. I wanted to get on board that flight, but they said, sorry, all booked out. Every window taken, including the bullseye window. I said, so where am I going? Oh, don't worry, we have another flight leaving Dusseldorf. You can be on that flight. And I said, oh, that's great. He said, oh, by the way, do you speak German? I said, no, my wife is German. She had Renata. He said, you don't speak German? I said, no. He said, well, it still will work out. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, everybody from the local area will be on the plane that you will be on. He said, so you'll be the German flight. I said, okay, no problem. In terms of a total eclipse of the sun, we all speak the same language. You see totality. And when totality finally came, and I was there with my little bullseye window and my camera, not the big box camera that Professor Leuten had, but one of the digital cameras, come the moment of totality, here's what I saw from that plane. It was rather cloudy right below us, and the shadow passed directly over the clouded over area over near the Faroe Islands. But there you see the shadow of the moon, the corona of the sun, the most magnificent spectacle you will ever see in your entire lifetime. This should be, as I put on Facebook after I had landed and got back to my hotel room, I said everybody should put this on their bucket list. Everybody should see this at least once in their lives, a total eclipse of the sun. Now, I have one question before I move on to my final image here. Do we have audio?
It should.
I just want to make sure that... Okay, here we go. Put it up as loud as, put it up real loud. One of the people on board my flight that saw this eclipse, he took a video of totality. While as beautiful as this is, and by the way, you see Venus up there? Venus came out during totality. As beautiful as this image is, and I'm very proud that I took it, it makes more of an impression when you actually see the event in motion. So what I'm going to show you now is a video that was taken by a gentleman shooting out his window. The video will start 1 minute before totality. And during that time frame, watch two things. Watch how brilliant the sun begins to diminish as we approach totality, and also watch at the bottom of the screen as the shadow of the moon moves across the cloud cover, ultimately to envelop the plane and surrounding areas. And of course, this being the German plane, the gentleman who was counting down, I know Craig was on the American flight. I know Craig, the person who was doing the countdown on the American flight couldn't reach over, the microphone couldn't reach over enough so that rather than use the microphone, Glenn was just simply shouting at the top of his lungs, right? We had a slightly different aircraft, so you could hear all around the plane the gentleman doing the countdown in German. We start just 1 minute before totality. Curtains part. And he had a regular window, not a bullseye window. So now let's begin. Yes, 1 minute before totality. See the shadow? Moon shadow advancing, coming in from right to left of the cloud cover. Look how bright 99.8% of the sun still appears. We didn't actually have the music when even the stodgiest of astronomers who have witnessed the sight speak of it in awe. In 2 years, millions of Americans will have a chance to see it for themselves. Two generations have passed since the last total eclipse of the sun over the United States. And by the way, the 2017 eclipse will be visible from only one country. Usually when we have an eclipse in this country, we share it with, say, the path will pass over Mexico or Canada. But this time, from start to finish, the only country will be our United States. It is the all-American eclipse, and people from all over the world will be coming to our country on August 21st, 2017 to see this event. And let me just finally say one thing. There are beautiful astronomical events that occur. An aurora borealis, a comet, a storm of meteors, and of course, a total eclipse of the sun. The problem with the other events is that there's always a bit of uncertainty. We had the chance, we were hoping that we were going to have a spectacular comet last year right around Thanksgiving. The comet possibly of the century. But what happened? The comet broke apart as it rounded the sun. As it was exposed to sunlight, tremendous heat and light of the sun disintegrated the comet. No big show. No comet, no glorious tail, nothing. Show ended. Meteor storms. Well, they're beautiful, but again, a lot of uncertainty. Will we hit the meteor cloud just right so that we'll see a spectacular storm of meteors, or will we bypass it and see nothing? Again, uncertainty with a meteor storm. Aurora borealis. It turned out a couple of days before the eclipse Maybe some of you remember there was a big, people were saying there was a big meteor, a big geomagnetic storm, a beautiful aurora, possibly visible maybe as far south as New York City and points south of there. Sometimes it happens, but sometimes it doesn't. Again, you can't say with any certainty that that's going to happen. You could again be disappointed, your hopes crushed, because we just don't know. We just don't have a precise idea of the calculations. But ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you one thing. August 21st, 2017, the fourth Monday in August of that year, we are going to see a total eclipse of the sun. We know it's going to happen. We know it's going to take place. And if you position yourself in that totality path, and if we have a clear day like we have today, you will come away with seeing the greatest event in your lifetime. And once you see it, a warning, you will become totally and completely addicted. The first words out of your mouth after totality ends will be, when's the next one? When can I see this again? In my case, I've seen 10 since my first as a 16-year-old boy in Kapshak, Quebec, Canada in 1972. 10. A friend of mine, Glenn Schneider, calls me a piker. You only seen 10, Joe? Glenn is working on, with this eclipse, that was Glenn's 32nd eclipse. In 1973, there was an event at the Hayden Planetarium. We were sitting next to each other, and Dr. Chartrand, who was giving the talk, was mentioning Dr. Smiley, Charles Smiley, who at that time had seen 15 eclipses. And Dr. Chartrand was saying he will attempt at the next eclipse to push his time of totality in the shadow of the moon to 30 minutes. An unprecedented total. Believe me. And that's when Glenn leaned over to me and said, when I'm done, I'm going to leave Dr. Smiley in his dust. Because I'm going to see every total eclipse of the sun for the rest of my life. And you know what? He's pretty much done that. With the exception of one eclipse in 1985 over Antarctica, Glenn couldn't get an icebreaker. Except for that one eclipse, he has seen every eclipse since we were sitting in the Hayden Planetarium in 1973. And as far as I was concerned, when he said I'm going to see every eclipse and leave Dr. Smiley in his wake, I said to Glenn, if I see half as many as Dr. Smiley saw, again he saw 15, I see half as many, I'll be happy. Guess what? As Harry Chapin said, we both got what we asked for such a long time ago. Because I've seen 10 now, that's more than half of what Dr. Smiley has seen. The one in 2017 is 11 for me. Maybe next year I might get a chance to see the one that might be visible in the Pacific. But in any case, once you see one of these folks, you're addicted, and you have to see another one. It's like potato chips. I hope all of you get a chance to at least once in your life experience, or as one of my mentors in astronomy, the late Dr. Frank Hess would say, bask in the glory and shadow of the moon. Thank you all for coming.
August 21st, what time of day will it be about?
3:30.
Oh, okay.
3:30 in the afternoon. But of course, if you live in South Carolina,
Oh, my sister.
your sister probably can tell you that in August, typically, it tends to be very humid and very hot, and sometimes you get these pop-up thunderstorms at 3:30 in the afternoon. But let us hope that doesn't happen on that particular Monday in 2017. Yeah.
I think when there's an annular stories, like I think there's something called an antumbra hitting your shadow. I think it's something called an antumbra hitting the ear.
Well, the shadow that causes an annular or ring eclipse, it doesn't reach all the way down to the ground. It passes over your head, the tip of that umbra shadow. So it has gotten a name. They call that the antumbra or the anti-umbra. It's the negative shadow, so to speak. And all you get again in an annular eclipse, it gets dark, but it doesn't get very dark, really. Certainly not dark enough for you to see the planets and the stars. Certainly not dark enough for you to see the corona or the prominences.